Welcome to the Final Score Network and the Final Score Podcast, presented by Team Anders Realtors. I'm Andy. He's former NCAA student athlete and co-host.
Ryan, Cam, two-hand monster flush off the inbound. Ryan, Cam, slam, jam. Oh boy.
Find the TFS pod and our playlists wherever you stream your podcast or music. Follow us on X at TheFinalScore35. Oh, and one more note before we get started.
I'd like to apologize to anyone I've not offended yet. Please be patient. I'll get to you shortly.
Welcome into the 187th edition of the TFS pod. It's game week, folks. Week 0. Not much, but it's something. College football is here. We're ready for it. And then full go next week. We got some picks for you. Some FedEx Cup playoffs, fodder, some mailbag, some more previews. We'll finish those out. Excited to bring you those. And yeah, there's a lot going on in sports right now, and we love it. Let's go to the podium, and I will go first as I always have. I was going to do one thing. I switched to another because I thought, what the heck, keep it brief though. Michigan State basketball, if you did not know, went to Spain for a week. They just finished up today, played 3 games when they were there. Did a little sightseeing, team building stuff. I think they were in Madrid, Valencia, and then Barcelona today. I think they're heading home tomorrow. Played 3 games. Played Thursday, won by like 8 points against a pretty solid team. Then Sunday they played a team that looked like an old man pickup league team. It was horrible. Then today they played a really good Serbian professional team that plays in the highest level. That was really good, big physical, and a good test match as they lost by 5. So 2-1 the trip. Probably learned a lot. Experimented with different lineups. I watched all the game on Thursday, some of it Sunday, and then most of it today. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that will say, Izzo, I didn't know he was doing these lineups, whatever. I said something about it, but it's he's just seeing who fits, trying to get guys playing time. I'll give you the 50,000-foot view. Jeremy Fears looked healthy. Loved that. Jaden Akins, he looks really the same. I don't know if he's improved a ton, but played a little better today. Frankie Fiddler, he's going to be the real deal. Really good scorer. Booker looked good in spurts, just not physical enough yet. I think he'll get there. He's got to have that mentality. Zapala, he was the starting center for a couple games. He's okay. He looked bad the first game, then better the last 2. Today he looked pretty decent. I think he had 9 points and got a few rebounds and made some good passes. So he was pretty solid. And then Cooper, he's horrible. He should be the last big. Kohler, I think, has improved a lot.
Put a missile between his butt cheeks and fire him to the moon. Is he our guy this year?
Yeah, he's horrible. Kohler looks, he's been kind of our whipping boy the last 2 years. He looks pretty good. Looks like he lost some weight, put on some muscle. He's moving better, making jump shots, finishing a little better, getting rebounds. He's definitely the best center we have offensively, so we'll take that. Cohen Carr trimmed his hair. He's got a buzz cut now. He looks different, but he's still the same freak athlete. He looked pretty good. Jace Richardson, freshman, he's going to be a good one for Michigan State. He's going to be a nice player. He plays really hard. Going to be hard to keep off the floor in my eyes. Trey Holloman, pretty solid. Kerr Tang, freshman, pretty solid. Jesse McCulley's a freshman, played a little bit. He looked okay when he played, not bad. Didn't look overly outmatched or anything, which is good. Garrett Norman, he's not great. I don't know how much he'll play, but all in all, definitely a good growing for Michigan State and a good trip. I think they got a lot out of it. I'm sure Izzo would say that. And gives me some hope in a Big Ten that's going to be down this season. And Michigan State obviously is going to play a tough schedule. They always do, but looking forward to it and seeing how they're going to do. I think defensively they might struggle a little bit at first, but I think offensively they have a lot of different cogs that can work on any different night, which is good. They can shoot. They have guys that can go inside too. They have mid-range scoring. They have some height on the wing, some different guys to handle the ball. So it should be fun to watch, if anything, and hopefully do better than we've done the last 4 years. That would be nice.
A little early season taste of basketball with the Maui Invitational pairings having come out this week. Michigan State drawing Colorado in what is easily the hardest field ever. I think in the Maui.
Colorado's, I mean, every team except for one, I think, made the tournament.
Chaminade, right? Is the only one.
No, they're not in it.
Oh, they're not in it?
No.
Oh, geez, then it really is a tough one.
And, and Colorado's probably the so-called worst out of all those teams because they lost a lot from last year's round of 32 team, but they'll still be pretty solid, well-coached team. So should be fun.
All right, bringing it back to a favorite topic of the podcast, NIL, and all the transfer portal garbage that goes on. This one specifically to NIL. And Mike Gundy, I'm a man, I'm 40. The other day, I'm not going to read all of his quotes, but I wrote a couple down. You know, he's very adamant in his press conference. I think it was just yesterday or 2 days ago. We're done with NIL negotiations. Let's play football. As in, quote, tell your agent to quit calling us and asking for more money. It's non-negotiable now. Start again in December. Okay. And then yesterday or today, they announced they are the first, Oklahoma State is the first official, or first program, I guess it didn't have to be official, in college football to put a QR code on their helmets, which allows people to make direct donations as players play the game. Right to the OSU NIL collective. How asinine, perverted, and ridiculous is it that we've come to putting a QR code on the helmet of football players? Let's just call it the OnlyFans version of for males. I mean, I think I'm going to put a QR code on my truck and say, hey, I need help paying for gas. I mean, it's the most freaking ridiculous thing I have ever heard. The amount of greed from people who haven't earned it on anything other than maybe recruiting stripes from some nerdy looking pencil pusher for the whatever mag, whatever illustrated, whatever.com that anoints some kid in the middle of wherever, Texas, as the next big thing. They feel compelled to be able to put a QR code on their helmet and get paid for playing football. I guess look no further than what's going on in Chicago with the DNC, and you'll see exactly where that kind of behavior comes from. It's laughable. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. And as I was talking to a good friend of mine today who is pretty high up with the Big Ten, it is unfortunate because what college sports truly has become is another major league.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I was going to touch on that in mailbag, the QR code thing. I mean, that's just like...
Tell your agent to quit calling us, but then we're going to put a QR code on the helmet instead. First of all, do me a favor and ban phones. Like, the only time... I will text my friends that aren't at the game because we have our group text, but I'm not taking videos of the game. I'm not Snapchatting the game to them. You know, I'm texting with them or whatever. We take pictures after a big win, like the Penn State game in the snow or the Michigan game in 2021, which is epic and things like that. But the amount of people who go to concerts and golf tournaments and sporting events and they can't get their nose out of their phone to stop filming what's right in front of your eyes, and now you want us to take pictures of the QR code on the helmet? Screw you.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Dumb.
Yeah. All right, let's go... flag.
Speaking of a big screw you.
We're switching the flag this week because football's here. We're throwing the flag on one Steve Kerr. Oh, boy. Do you want to take this, or how do you want to do this?
I mean, you told me about it. You spoke at the DNC. Look, political whatever aside, you be who you want to be, but I'm just going to say, wake up if you're going to vote for Harris because she's a woman or whatever your case may be, and do your homework, because you're heading down a road of communism, and that includes you, Steve Kerr. I have an extreme problem, and I've said it on this podcast before. You may say it's hypocritical. I say it's different. Ryan, usually me, but Ryan and I can have an opinion on politics related to sports, doing a sports podcast, because we're not paid to do this. We're not professional athletes with a major platform. We're a couple of guys in a basement with a microphone and a pretty decent fan base of probably mostly conservatives, for the reason of me being the co-host of this, and I probably push away the rest, and that's okay. I don't think they're really sports fans.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Steve Kerr, this is the problem that I have, and throwing the flag on this. We don't need athletes and coaches to be speaking at political conventions, either side of the aisle. I don't need that. You want to have like Hulk Hogan or whatever, entertainers, whatever, fine. That's not a sport. Don't even at me that WWE is a sport. But for Steve Kerr, first of all, you have a voice, and I get it. You're speaking for your voice. But if you listen to what's going on, we don't want a border wall. We don't want voter ID. We don't want this. We don't want that. We don't want assault weapons. But they had armed guards with assault weapons and a fence around United Center that required an ID to get in. And you stand for that as somebody who, supposedly has a sane voice. That's my problem with it. It's like, people, wake up. Are you that hell-bent because you don't like Donald Trump as a person that you can't think for yourself and look at where we were 4 years ago and look at where we are now? Look at where we were economy-wise, let alone look at where we are Christianity-wise. I'm absolutely flabbergasted by the people like Steve Kerr who would defend this behavior, dyeing the Chicago River red and all that. I don't want to turn this into a political podcast today, but give me a break. There's a time and a place, and that is not a place for you. It's not a place for athletes or people in sports to talk about politics. It's just not.
No, it's not.
It's no different than LeBron doing the garbage, Brian Griner, there is Megan Rapinoe, none of it. It's disgusting. It's appalling. Keep it separate. Keep it separate. You want to be a lib? You want to go for communism, Steve? More power to you. Screw you, but more power to you. But I don't need it jammed down my throat as an American citizen.
Nope. All right. That's flag this week. Let's get to the main stuff. 4 downs. We're back to that because we got picks to do this week.
Football is upon us.
Yeah.
Let's start golf. Before we do that, First Down is presented by Norris Sports Group. NSG is a boutique agency of experts with 30-plus years experience in sports sponsorship and much more. Learn more about them today at norrissportsgroup.com.
All right. Time for some golf. We had the FedEx St. Jude Championship this past weekend. Hideki gets his second win of the season. Tried to give it away, and he finished really strong. It was a good tournament, though. Kept it interesting by
we had a 5-shot lead.
Some guys going, yo-yoing back and forth between making the top 50 and not making the top 50. Some guys falling short.
Poor dude is caddy and his interpreter got robbed in London, and he didn't have his regular guys with him.
Still won, and he was pretty unbelievable.
And he started to falter when the rules officials approached him about tapping down, what I think they determined was he just was doing course repair. He wasn't necessarily trying to improve his line, but it got in his mind. Yeah, some of the penalties at golf are ridiculous, but it got in. That no doubt shook him up a little bit.
Yeah, kind of got rattled.
Yeah, and he got rattled, and he made a couple of tough shots there down the stretch, and all of a sudden it swung big time with Hovland, and then Hovland couldn't close the deal either.
No, it was a good tournament. Hideki's second big win of the year. First, this was his first FedEx Cup playoff win. It's kind of hard to believe because he's been, pretty solid player on tour for, a decade plus.
I just wish he would learn how to speak English at the press conference. That's the only off-putting thing to me is just I get it. You're Japanese. I don't expect it to be
He did
polished.
Speak English though.
Oh, did he a little bit?
Chick-fil-A.
Oh yeah, Chick-fil-A. Loves Chick-fil-A. Just learn a little bit. Just humor us sports fans so we can hear you, even if it's broken and in your, in your accent or whatever. Just show us some effort. Hey, Llama, how about a little something, for the effort?
He won $3.6 million. That's not.
Yeah, so he should be able to pay for that Babbel or whatever it is, the app.
Yeah. But that course is always good.
I like that course. A lot of
water. It's tough. It's 17 under. I said 16 under would win it on Sunday, and that was pretty close. But Xander, another good performance. Scotty, Hovland finally up there. Burns, he's kind of rounded into form a little bit. Dunlap,
another great. He was in contention there for a little bit.
He's an up and comer. He's 20 years old. Really nice player. Billy, another really good week. McCarthy playing that torn labrum in his hip.
And all the walking, that's going to hurt him this week because at the International, up and down the hills, that's going to hurt. But literally,
the bottom of this leaderboard is pretty funny. The 3 worst players were Jordan Spieth, who did not make the top 50. He's having wrist surgery. Hopefully it doesn't end his career because that can do that.
He's at a crossroads. I mean, it's a key surgery. He's fiddled with his game a little bit, maybe because he's been trying to protect his wrist. But, you hope that, look, Zalatoris took a year off after surgery, and he's been coming back and rounding into form. So I hope Spieth does come back because a great young Spieth was fun to watch.
Yep. Rory, horrible. Homa, horrible. So that's 3 really solid big names.
Homa didn't make the top 50, did he?
No, he did. He's 43rd now.
Really?
He was 35th.
That's too bad because a guy like Tom Kim, who I have to mention because I like Tom Kim, totally threw up all over his shoes. He was staring at 16, 17, 18. And you don't know how much these guys know this necessarily, but he just needed bogey to finish inside the top 50. So, mind you, this is a guy who didn't medal and therefore is technically up for a military service in Korea. Now, remains to be seen if that'll happen because the guy that happened to before him, he never did his military time. But so we'll see. But then he's looking at get into that vaunted top 50 because then you make all the money events next year. Just makes your life on the tour that much easier. He just needs to go +3. And he splits the middle on his drive on 16. He kind of like bails out on his approach. I think it was into a bunker, what I read. Okay, out, 2-putt for bogey. Okay, fine. He's got 2 more bogeys to work with. No, stripes his drive on 17, does the same thing, kind of yanks it. Chili dips, I think, a wedge. Ends up, I think, 3-putting for a double bogey. So now you're like, okay, he just has to par the last hole. His driver wasn't even, he pulled out a driver inexplicably because on that, knowing that you just need a par, you got to be safe. Never had a chance. Put in the water, ended up doubling. He finished +5 and he missed the top 50 by 1. I think he ended up 51st.
Yeah, he is 51st. That's pretty crazy. Too bad for him. Hopefully.
Feel bad because I like Tom Kim, but
he's a good guy.
And then as we kind of maybe get into this week, I've been reading more and more. We talked about this a little bit on the podcast last year, but like Scotty was asked in the pre-tournament press conference, like, is it fair the way that they do this? And he's like, no, because I've had a great year. So has Xander, but I've had a great year. I'm this far ahead. What if I get hurt and I can't play in the last tournament? I finished 30th. He's like, it all ultimately really does come down to a tournament, and I get it. The PGA Tour doesn't want the last tournament to be something nobody watches, but I don't necessarily like to starting out with a lead. Just you have your points, and if you're up, like make it. Maybe they already do, so maybe I'm off, Chris. You could probably correct me on this, but make it double the points or triple the points. So like a 3rd or a 4th place if they won the tournament, everybody starting at even could catch Scotty, but give him the benefit of the points doubt, right? Like, don't make it that, okay, you're going to start at +10 and Xander's going to be +8 and you have a 2-shot lead, but if he beats you by 3 this weekend and he wins, then he's the winner. That doesn't do it for me. There's got to be a way to do it based on the points if it's truly a season-long thing. And if it's not, then award season-long some chunk of money and then make it like a final tournament, like a match play or something like that, to be like a Tournament of Champions tournament. There's a fun way to do it to make it realistic, because Scotty's point was dead on. How is this a year-long race when it really comes down to the last tournament?
Yeah, seriously. It's not. Doesn't make any sense. And it's not going to change anytime in the foreseeable future either. This week, Castle Pines.
Yeah, they haven't played there in a long time.
Longest PGA Tour event we'll ever play is like 8,000 yards, but it's in the mountains. There's some severe downhill shots, but
they'll be smoking drives like 450
pictures I've
on
seen. It looks incredible.
I don't know the last time they had the International, which was like
2001 or 2.
Like you got positive points. It was a plus points tournament, which I don't think they do one like that on the PGA Tour anymore. But it was kind of cool.
Yeah, Stableford.
But yeah, Stableford system. There were a lot of people. A lot of good names that won there. One course, I'm glad they got it back in the rotation. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Let's do some picks. I think a lot of guys are actually pretty trendy right now. But my 2 guys, I'm going with the hometown guy, Colorado's own Wyndham Clark. He's starting to play better.
Steady, yeah.
And then Mr. Hot himself, Victor Hovland. I think he's back.
I'm going to go with another guy who's been hot lately and has been right there in the mix, and that's Billy Ho. And I'm going to go with Sam Burns. He's been playing pretty well lately too. I think he's got some ground to gain.
On PGAtour.com, their power rankings number 1 was Tony Finau.
Yeah, I thought about Finau too. I mean, it's not a per se resort course, but Finau does play on
he's
on courses
from
like
Utah,
that.
so
yeah, so he kind of gets the elevation stuff.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else golf wise. If you don't.
No, I do not. So let's move on to second down, the mailbag, sponsored by Mitch-a-Palooza. Nothing from Chris this week. He's moving, so hopefully you can listen to this podcast while he's moving down in Southwest Florida in particular. All right, so Mitch-a-Palooza, thank you as always for your 4 questions. You're always spot on with 4 questions, usually with some good variety. Keep them coming. Question number 1, we're going to dip into baseball a little bit. The Tigers playing the Yankees at the Little League World Series spot was awesome. Where would you like to see an NFL game played in similar fashion?
I think they should play in Danny O'Shea Stadium.
I thought about the same thing.
I'm just kidding.
Urbana, Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, they already play the Hall of Fame game in that stadium.
They could do it at some like Texas,
like a Texas high school stadium
Texas
or something
high
would be
school
kind of
stadium
cool.
Would be cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other historic venues.
Is there like Bosco Prep or any of those like historic high schools have like some classic venue? I mean, the Texas venues are otherworldly. They're bigger than D2.
Yeah.
And they're better than some D1 like Eastern Michigan. That's a good. I mean, they're playing. The NFL plays all over the place now in the world. So maybe you got to think about. They bring hockey and they bring basketball, into these outdoor venues. Like I don't know how you do it in an indoor. Yeah, like is it the Coliseum? I don't know. That's a good question, Mitch. I mean, there's not like anything that stands out that makes a lot of sense. Like that's
football and aircraft carrier.
Yeah, that's Mecca. Oh man, he fell out of bounds into the ocean. Little League World Series is Mecca if you're a Little League baseball player. I don't know that there really is anything like that. I mean, short of playing maybe at the Rose Bowl, which they played Super Bowls there before, or some sort of a venue like that is epic for college.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a really good question.
I don't know. I have to think about that a little bit more. I mean, aside from maybe like Ryan said, the Coliseum. Not the Coliseum in LA. Maybe something like that would be cool. But nothing stands out to me. That's a tricky one. You stumped us, Mitch. All right, Mitch's second question. Brooks Koepka just won his 5th live event, over 20 million in prize totals in just 5 events over a few years. Even if guys could come back to the tour, why would they?
I mean, if they're in it for the money, they wouldn't.
Right. The only reason guys would come back to the tour is to compete day in and day out with truly the best fields in golf, in the way golf was meant to be played, with a 36-hole cut, not a shotgun start. I don't care about the shorts thing. I don't care about whatever. Not guaranteed money. You got to earn your way through. It's a meritocracy, kind of the live tour is like the liberal way, right? Except for with billions of dollars, everybody gets some. They wouldn't. And Ryan said why. If they're in it for the money, they wouldn't. And that pretty much is why any of those guys left, is to get set up for life. They don't really truly care about growing the game of golf.
No.
All right, number 3, worst feeling at the course, taking a divot on a practice swing with a driver or double hitting an uphill chip out of the rough.
Probably the divot with a driver.
The double chip doesn't cost you anymore, at least, like the TC Chin double chip. I mean, I think if you take a divot on a practice swing with a driver, that's sending a major message that you're about ready to really not have a good shot off the tee. That's bad. So I think that's worse. I've almost double hit, I think, last week actually when we played. So that comes closer to happening, especially out of the thick rough. Somebody else on tour almost did that this weekend. I think it might have been Hideki.
I think it was Hideki.
When and he as he followed through, he almost caught it. All right, 4th question. This could easily relate into our previews section, but we'll put it here. How many points per game do we think the Spartans football will average this year? Last year was a measly 15.92. I'm hoping it's at least 24.
Third worst in program history. Can't really do worse than that, so I'll set the bar in the middle. Let's say 21 points a game. That probably wins you last year like 4 more games.
You look at Michigan State's programs, which now they're all digital, right, for the games, but it's the magic number is 20. Like when Michigan State scores more than 20 points a game, their win percentage is quite a bit higher than when they don't. It's probably better than their overall program winning percentage when they hit that kind of 20-point magic mark. Mitch says 24. We looked at it during the Big Ten tour stop, so we watched that. What was that, last night?
Yeah.
Jonathan Smith's teams routinely are very balanced, very good rushing teams, very good passing teams, and they average in the high 20s to low 30s. I don't think they can quite get there. I think they've got some of the horses for it. The concern, as maybe tip my hand for preview time, is still the offensive line. If the offensive line can shore up and some of these young guys can really be good, I think Michigan State could score mid to upper 20s a game. But you look, they got to play Ohio State, they got to play Oregon, they got to play Iowa, so they've got some tough games that's going to balance it out. What did they say they got? We outscored last year 170-10 against the ranked teams.
Yes.
So if that's the case, it's going to be really hard to average 24 points a game. But I'm going to go with you, Mitch. I think right in that 24-25 range. And I'll tell you what, if they do that, I think they're going to have a better season than most people expect.
I would agree with that.
All right, that is the mailbag. Do you have any other hodgepodge? I know you wanted to talk a little bit about.
Just a couple other things I had notes on. Sean McVay, he gave up his head coaching duties in their game today to be in the booth. Like, what is that signal? That's freaking weird. He's a weird guy, though.
What's that?
I thought a few years ago
that he was going to retire, right?
Yeah, that he's going to retire and join in the booth. I don't know. It's just weird. This is my other one. Miami. This is an article in Front Office Sports. Miami NIL king John Ruiz's business is tanking. He has committed millions of dollars to Miami's athletes in NIL deals. His company lost $211 million between March and June. It's their biggest booster for that life wallet crap. What's going to happen when this keeps happening with these NIL things?
Right. The money dries up and these players they're going to be pissed. That collective bargaining is coming next. There's going to be a way to protect the players. There's going to be a way to protect the schools, from the people not paying, like the kid who was supposedly promised all that money at Florida that never really gave it to him. And on the other side, like the kids who transfer a bajillion times and or don't pan out. Here, I got a simple solution for you. Put the toothpaste back in the tube and stop with it altogether.
It's stupid.
Like, it's just, it's gone
it's a horrible
now.
product.
It's just, it's awful. Like, Michigan State, 61 new faces, not all transfer portal guys, but a lot of them. And that's because they had a lot of guys leave too, right? Coaching, and last Michigan State, okay, maybe an exception because they had the coaching turmoil and the turnover, but still, that's more the norm. 30, 40, 50 new guys in a program every year. How do you establish culture? How do you keep the traditions? How do you keep the history and the heritage of your program? It's ruined because of money. And it's just the greed and the corruption as a result of it. Like, it was better when illegal stuff like what SMU had going on in the 80s was going on.
Right.
Like, that was better. You had a blip where this team all of a sudden was great with guys that never probably would have gone to school there because they were getting paid. And then it all balanced out in the end. And now it's gross.
All right. Let's get third down.
Yeah. First, a word from our presenting sponsor. Team Anders Realty will help you find the home that fits your wants and needs. And they make the process simple and fun along the way. The Anders have served thousands of clients for 30 plus years in the West Michigan area and are here to serve you today. Learn more at teamanders.com.
All right. We got 3 more. Last week, we finally hit it. 2 W's in a green and white. That's what we got. So let's go first. Washington Huskies, coming off of the best season in school history, really. 14-1, 10-0 in the Pac-12. Lost in the national championship to the cheaters in the
Fighting Connor Stallions.
Kalen DeBoer takes the Alabama job when Nick Saban retires. And they scramble, find Jed Fish, who was at Arizona. This is his first season. He's a good offensive coach. He's kind of been around the block. He's coached a lot in college. He's coached in the NFL. He was pretty good at getting Arizona back up. a tough program to win at, really. So we'll see what he does there, but they lose so much. I mean, Michael Penix Jr. gone, Dylan Johnson, their best back, gone, Jeremy Bernard, good receiver, transferred to Bama, Jalen Polk,
The guy that was at Michigan State?
Yep.
Then went to Washington?
Yeah.
Then he goes to Bama?
Yep.
Here's an example. I rest my case.
Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, Roma Dunze, all in the NFL. Dominic Hampton, good defensive back, NFL. Braylon Trice, NFL. Parker Brailsford transferred to Alabama's offensive lineman. Nate Kolepko, offensive lineman, transferred to Ole Miss. And then Jabbar Muhammad, corner, transferred to Oregon. They do have some key additions, though. Kevin Green Jr., really good receiver from Arizona. He's there. Jordan Washington, Arizona's best running back last year. Jaden Wayne, defensive end from Miami. How about this name? Cornerback from Arizona, Ephesians Prysock. That's an amazing name.
Ephesians after the Bible. Prysock is one of the weirdest last names I've ever heard.
Jeremiah Hunter, receiver from Cal. And then Will Rogers, quarterback from Mississippi State. He was solid there, had a good career in the air raid system. It's just a very interesting, just dynamic 30th overall recruiting class, 11th transfer portal. They're bringing 28 new guys, so pretty big class. And offensively, like I said, they don't really bring back much. Giles Jackson, he's gadget guy. Cameron Davis, decent running back, and then on defense, Carson Bruner, linebacker, then Elijah Jackson, corner, then Alfonso Chupatala, linebacker, and then their kicker, Grady Gross. He's pretty solid. He's back. New regime, new everything, really. See if Washington can keep it up. They've been good for a couple of years now after kind of a dead period there under Jimmy Lake. They're going to have, I think they'll have a fun offense. Jed Fish has done a really good job, scheming that spread. Their defensive coordinator, Steve Belichick, how about that?
Huh, interesting.
Pretty funny. You want to spit some facts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of them because this was all super interesting. Obviously, Washington we knew of from the Pac-12, but not as a Big Ten foe, so never studied them this closely. So I'm going to spit quite a few impressive things. I was impressed that they've won 18 conference championships. They've won 7 Rose Bowls. They won a Natty back in 1991. Their wins ranks 22nd by win percentage and 18th by total victories among FBS programs. That's pretty good.
That's good.
They hold the FBS record for the longest unbeaten streak at 64 consecutive games and the second longest winning streak at 40 in a row. The dogs are going crazy upstairs. They've had 13 total unbeaten seasons, 8 perfect seasons. Unbeaten, I'm sure, is regular season. One of 4 charter members of the Pac-12, and along with and along with Cal was one of only 2 schools with uninterrupted membership until they obviously left for the Big Ten. From 1977 through 2003, Washington had 27 consecutive non-losing seasons, the most of any team in the Pac-12 and the 14th longest streak by any NCAA D1 team. That's pretty crazy stuff. Like, you don't, if you're not from the Big Ten, you don't necessarily know that. You know that they've kind of risen up here and there. They were in the CFP the year Michigan State was in it. Isn't that correct? Or was it the year after? Year after. Often referred to as one of the top quarterback U's. A lot of guys that have been in the NFL, notably, probably most notably Warren Moon. So tons of amazing history and facts for Washington football. Pleasantly surprising, I guess. I don't think they have a whole lot with their other programs, but hey, they bring something good to the Big Ten football-wise. Their 5-year Pac-12 conference trend, as Ryan said last year, 10-0, including winning the Pac-12 championship first. The year before that, they tied for second at 7-2. In 2021, they were only 3-6, good for 5th in the North. 2020, they were 3-1, which was good for second in the North. 2019. This tells you what parity there was. They were 4-5 in the North, and they finished tied for second. So they've been better lately. But like Ryan said, they kind of dried up there for a little while, and then they've kind of started to get back to good. So we'll see if they can do it in their first year in the Big Ten. So let's break down their schedule. They start off with Weber State, Chiefs. That's a win.
Damian Lillard.
I've got Eastern Michigan at home. That's a win. Glad to see them keeping the Apple Cup alive with Washington State. The Cougs come to town in week 3. Usually it's the last week, but we'll take it. We have them winning that. So a nice 3-0 start. Then they've got Northwestern at home, so they're starting off on a nice home parade. That's an easy start into Big Ten play. That's a dub. Then they go to Rutgers on a Friday, their first roadie, all the way at the end of September. Rutgers, some people like them to make some noise in the Big Ten. I think we have them beating Rutgers. Maybe Rutgers gives them a little bit of a battle. Mm-hmm. Following week, they return back to the confines on Lake Washington, I believe it is. Play Michigan at home in a rematch of the national championship game. I don't know. We have them losing this. I could definitely see it go the other way. You sure as hell know that who we're rooting for in that. So then they follow that up with a trip to Iowa. Arguably one of their tougher games in general, but also one of their tougher road games. That's another loss. So they start off 5-0, then they lose 2. They have a bye. Good news is after that, they go to Indiana. They could probably win that with their third string. Then they get Pac-12 foe USC at home. We got them winning that.
Yep.
So they're up to 7-2. Then another tough road trip. This is road trip number 2 to Penn State. We have them losing that. Penn State notorious for not being able to beat the big boys lately, but winning all their other games. This Washington being one of the newer big boy-ish on the block. We've got them beating Washington that game. They return home for a Friday night game. These 6-day turnarounds are going to be interesting against UCLA. We've got them beating the Bruins, and they have a week off before an epic battle. Team they beat twice last year, going to Oregon. Their third really, really tough road game of the season, and we have them losing that. That's good for 8-4, 5-4 in the Big Ten. I think in terms of floor, I don't know that it's much lower than 8-4. I mean, maybe you could say, okay, maybe would they lose to a Rutgers on the road because it's a Friday night all the way across the country? Maybe. Could they maybe lose to USC? I don't see worse than 7-5 this year as an absolute floor, even with all their turnover that Ryan talked about. I think they could go 9-3. I think certainly, Penn State, Iowa, those are tough games on the road. Michigan at home, any one of those they could win. I don't think they have a chance against Oregon, but I think they could flip the script on Penn State, Iowa, or Michigan. Most likely Michigan because it's at Husky Stadium. So let's just say 9-3 is probably their ceiling. But they could maybe squeeze out 10-2 as well, which would be, a step back from last year, but would still be pretty dang competitive. So that is the Huskies, one of the newer members of the last new member of the Big Ten that we're going to be previewing.
All right, we move on to the last W. Wisconsin go across the lake to Madison. 7-6 last year, 5-4, kind of a disappointing year. It was Luke Fickell's first. Brought in the air raid system. That just doesn't fit Wisconsin to me. It's hard to say that. Solid defense.
It didn't fit their personnel last year at all.
Mike Tressel's their DC, the Hobbit. Some key losses. Their quarterback, Tanner Mordecai, gone. Braylon Allen, stud back, he's gone. Chamir Dike, wide receiver, transferred to Florida. And Jordan Turner, linebacker, transferred to Michigan State. Key additions on offense, Ernest Willor, 4-star defensive tackle. Dylan Jones, 4-star running back. Shocking, they got another 4-star running back.
Probably from New Jersey.
Yeah, well, let's look.
They have a pipeline to New Jersey.
Maryland. Close.
Usually it's New Jersey.
Close. They always have a East Coaster, though. Bring in Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback from Miami. He was been solid in his career, but pretty roller coaster. Tackett Curtis, linebacker from USC. Tawi Walker, running back from Oklahoma. And Jaheim Thomas, linebacker from Arkansas. They had the 25th overall recruiting class and 23rd transfer, so not bad. 16 new transfers coming in. Decent. Key returnees in offense, Ches Malusi, pretty good running back. Will Pauling, their best receiver, and then Bryson Green, their second best receiver. So return those guys. And then defense, Hunter Wohler, pretty good safety. He's a nice player. Ricardo Hallman, his corner, and then Jake Cheney, linebacker, both their punter and kicker back. As always, Wisconsin will have an elite offensive line. It's never been a problem ever since really Barry Alvarez took over.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been.
That's how they rebuilt their program.
Yeah, and their defense should be pretty good. They're well coached. Mike Trustle's a good DC, and they have some good pieces back.
I think year 2 is when you see the strides from the new coach. Luke
Fickell's a good coach.
No doubt. I mean, I would have loved to have him when we hired Tugger at Michigan State. I would have loved to have Fickell. So, I think he's a good coach. I think he fits well there. Wisconsin as a program, they've been in the Big Ten since the beginning. They're some of the OGs, 1896. They're one of 26 college football programs to win 700 or more games. Been one of the most successful programs since the 90s when said Barry Alvarez really took over. They've had a couple of Heisman winners. They've had a number of stud running backs, a lot of them from New Jersey. That's where, like Ryan said, they have the air raid system, but does that really play to what their strength is? Honestly, I think if you kind of stick to that, a little bit of ground and pound, mix in obviously some pro style, that gives them a huge advantage over the new West Coast teams who are not suited for that necessarily, especially in winter weather or late fall weather, as it is in the upper Midwest. I think Wisconsin has a great tradition. They've got the jump around. They're kind of sneakily, they're 19-6 all time in bowl games. They've won 742 games. They've won 14 conference titles. They were a mainstay in the Big Ten championship game there between 2011 and 2019. They went 5 times. Wisconsin is just a solid program that people like Ryan's age wouldn't know them anything but. I remember them in the 70s and 80s being one of the sure wins in the Big Ten.
Weren't they?
Yeah, Wisconsin, Northwestern, they both kind of bounced back to some, not way more Wisconsin than Northwestern, but to some prevalence in the 90s. And that is a testament to Barry Alvarez and the program that he built at Wisconsin. So a lot of great history with the Badgers. Their 5-year conference trend Ryan talked about last year. We had them going 3-0 out of conference. They went 2-1. We had them going 7-2 in the Big Ten and tying for first, but they went 5-4. Still tied for second in a mucked up West, but 7-5 got that bowl game, lost the bowl game. So an average, not even good, I would say an average season, just never quite got off the ground. But again, I think in year 2 of Luke Fickell, that they're looking to make some strides.
Take that step. Yeah.
So, as is a lot of the Big Ten, a lot of MAC games, they start with Western Michigan on a Friday night. Western can sometimes give a little bit of a scare, but we've got Wisconsin winning that. Then they've got South Dakota, pretty good FCS. No, that's South Dakota State usually. So that's a win. And here's the big one. I don't know if that Saban would have kept this game. Maybe he would have, but because Bama doesn't usually go on the road and play a true road game, but they're going to Wisconsin and they're playing the Badgers, and that's more of what we need to see in college football. Less of the South Dakotas and the Western Michigans, and more of the Alabamas, going to Wisconsin, or like USC going to LSU type of thing. That said, Bama gets Wisconsin there. Maybe Wisconsin gives them a little bit of a fight. That's going to be a fun atmosphere. I got to assume that'll be a CBS game for sure. Maybe a Big Ten NBC night game. They get a week off to lick their chops, and then they got to go out to California for their first Big Ten game at USC.
Tough.
That's maybe a toss-up, but we've got them losing that. When they return home, gets easier. They got Purdue, easy win. At Rutgers, maybe not an easy win, but a win. And then at Northwestern, another win. So they get a little bit of a soft spot there in the middle of the schedule. And then they got Penn State at Camp Randall. We got that as a win, big win for Wisconsin. Could go either way. Then we got them going to Iowa and picking up a win. Again, could go either way game.
Yep.
Then a week off to prepare for Oregon at home. So 2 great games for Badgers fans in Madison.
3 with Bama. I mean, that's a heck of a home schedule.
Oh, yeah, Penn State, too. Yeah, Oregon. We've got Wisconsin losing that. Then they go to Nebraska. Not an easy one, but a win there. And then a win to close the season, playing for Paul Bunyan's Axe against Minnesota on a Friday. That is good for 9-3. I believe it was 7-2. 7-2 in the Big Ten. I'm going to say floor-wise, I could see, a floor again being maybe a struggle, and they go 7-5. I mean, like I said, Iowa's maybe a toss-up. Penn State could potentially be a toss-up. USC could be a toss-up in their favor. Nebraska's not easy, but I don't think they go worse than 7-5. I really honestly don't see them going any better than 10-2. Maybe they win one of those games like, USC. Well, that's probably the only one that they maybe win out of the 3 games that we're picking them to lose. So 10-2 is their absolute stretch max, but I think 9-3 is a solid spot for them. 8-4, 9-3, at worst 7-5. Another typical solid season for Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's the Badgers, ladies and gentlemen. The moment you've all been waiting for. The Michigan State Spartans.
New bus driver.
To say that the last 2 seasons have been a disappointment would be a slight understatement. Looking to just erase the past and just move on. But
really, and you think about it, 3 of the last 4.
Yeah,
because COVID year was COVID year, but Michigan State was awful.
Yeah.
But we beat Michigan, and we beat a ranked Northwestern team, and so we felt good about it.
Right.
And then obviously K9 came in.
Was a mirage.
But K9 came in and he gave us, an epic game against Michigan and the snow game and everything that was with it. And then the wheels on the bus went and fell off, and then they went big time last year.
Yeah, a dream. Not a dream, a nightmare scenario that you want. Was this going to be over? Like, is this over? Like, is the season over? How many times?
And honestly, Mel Tucker's stupidity did Michigan State the biggest favor in the history of man, because he made it so they had no choice but to fire him when it was clear he also wasn't a very good football coach or recruiter. So it was like, for all the tarnish, it ends up being a blessing. Just a mess. Like, talked a big game recruiting, but he could never land the deal. He's like a prototypical salesperson that can get you all pumped up to get in a car, and then you end up going to the dealer across the street where you find an actual good car.
Yeah, just a clunker. 4-8 last year, 2-7.
And we'll say this: really, probably should have won 6 or 7 games as bad as they were.
If they had a coach.
I mean, Rutgers, Iowa, Minnesota, all extremely winnable games.
Oh yeah.
And then still, not without saying, they lost 170-10 against the 4 or 5 ranked teams they played. I think it was 4.
Yeah.
So they could have been feast or famine. Feast against the, schools of the poor, ugly, and broke. And then failing against the upper echelon billionaires, yes, but still would have gotten them into a bowl game. Now that also probably would have meant maybe Michigan State hires Harlan Barnett, which would have been Bobby Williams 2.0. So the bottom had to fall out last year, and it did, and that's okay.
Sometimes you got to get through the shit to get to the top.
Yep, it's like
Dufresne.
Yeah, Andy Dufresne. Shawshank Redemption.
Yep, got to crawl through it. Jonathan Smith comes in, brings in just a renewed presence and a similar demeanor to Mark D'Antonio. They said that in the Big Ten thing last night. I wholeheartedly agree with that. We've said that from the beginning. A guy that's just he keeps it simple, but he knows what he wants. He's a good offensive coach. He has really good teachers and guys with really good experience on his coaching staff. He's
guys who understand the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean he's built this thing the right way. And I mean, yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he does. I think it's gonna be fun. He's a low ego, high output. That's what we want. That's kind of the mantra. We love that. And Michigan State did lose some key guys. I mean, some depth. I mean, like Aaron Brule, he was a good linebacker. Winmon, he was a good linebacker. But like, are they replaceable? Yeah, Michigan. I'll get to it later. Linebacking is very, very good for Michigan State. Derek Harmon, that was kind of tough to lose him. He's a pretty solid player into Oregon. Barrow, get out of my face. He's just chasing money. Gino Vandemark transferred to Bama. Jaden Mangum, same thing, transferred to Michigan. Get out of my face. Michigan State brings in a recruiting class that's ranked 31st, so not too bad. 12th ranked recruiting class, transfer portal class, which is what I'm going to highlight here. I mean, they bring in a lot of guys at key positions. I mean,
they filled needs.
Yeah, just going down the list here on 247, Ed Woods. So this guy, Was a starter for Arizona State, really good corner, led them in interceptions. He's a guy that could start right away. Samaj Bridgman, he's probably a depth piece at linebacker, but transferred from Michigan. He was highly recruited. Jeremiah Hughes, he was on LSU last year, played as a redshirt freshman. He was kind of going to crack their two deep and then kind of had an injury, but he was a good special teams guy for him. This is under the radar player for me. Nikai Martinez comes from UCF. He's a safety. He's a ball hawk and good tackler. I like him. Ben Roberts, I think he's also very underrated. Big boy. Transfer from Oregon. He's 6'2", 310. Was John Cavazos from North Carolina. Solid corner, provides depth. Jalen Satchel is a defensive tackle from Old Dominion. 6'1", 300, big fella. Marcellus Pulliam from Miami, linebacker, probably won't play a ton. Raquan Buckley, 6'5", 295, D tackle from Nebraska. Tyler Gillison, his brother Trenton, played for Michigan State. He's an edge. Pretty good player. Andrew Dennis is a big flip back. He was committed to Michigan State, decommitted after the Tucker stuff. Went to Illinois, hated it, wanted to come home. Comes back to Michigan State. He's a 4-star tackle.
Very highly rated.
Yeah, he's a really good athlete. Kieran Lynch-Adams, he's a running back, pretty solid guy. Was good for UMass last year. Good depth there. Anthony Jones, edge from Indiana. Heard good things about him. Luke Newman, I think he's going to be a diamond in the rough for Michigan State. He's from Michigan, went to Holy Cross, transferred up. He was an All-American there. Can play guard and tackle. Versatile guy. He's going to be good. Wayne Matthews, linebacker, was like one of the best tacklers in the NCAA last year as a redshirt sophomore. Kid can play. He's fast, physical linebacker. Daquan Dowse from Georgia Tech, good D tackle. Tanner Miller, he was an All-American last year at Oregon State. He's a center. Tommy Schuster, good quarterback depth. Was good at North Dakota. Quindarius Dunnigan from Middle Tennessee, good DN. Heard good things on him. Then the three biggest headliners. Jack Velling.
Could be one of the best
Could
tight
be
ends.
one of the best tight ends. He's on the Mackey Award watch list. Really good, just a physical tight end. Probably the best tight end Michigan State's had since Josiah Price, and this guy's better than him. I mean, he's going to be an NFL draft pick. Good blocker, really good pass catcher. Had like 8 touchdowns last year. Jordan Turner is a linebacker from Wisconsin. Mentioned him earlier. He's going to be a captain. He's from Michigan. He always wanted to play at State and just didn't work out. Here he is. Then the headliner, guy playing the quarterback position, Aiden Childs, 6'3", 225, big body, mobile, good arm, good leadership. He's 18 years old, turns 19 next month. He's also going to be a captain. It's going to be his first year starting for Michigan State, and just in general, he played some snaps last year for Oregon State, solid player. See what happens there. Then some key freshmen Michigan State brings in. Nick Marsh, that is definitely a name to watch if you're a Michigan State fan. Kid's going to be a stud. His nickname is Megatron for a reason. Would not be surprised to see him starting on day one for Michigan State. Justin Denson's a name I see a lot in tweets and on message boards about playing well. He's a corner. Don't know if he'll play a ton, but good to see a young guy. Rakeem Johnson, he's an up-and-comer. Really good athlete, offensive lineman. Don't know how much he'll play, but have heard good things. Then Mike Sean Beeler from Simeon in Chicago. He's 6'4", 280, plays D tackle, can go outside a little bit. Would not be surprised to see him crack the 2 deep as well. On offense, Michigan State returns Nate Carter, who was a good back, kind of dinged up last year. Just the system wasn't right for him. I think this system is. Montori Foster, good receiver, and John Glover as well. Couple good receivers, return some offensive linemen. Let's talk offense just right now in general. I think receivers will be fine. You got some depth, some new guys, but I feel like receiver, you can just make guys better. I mean, look at Michigan State in 2012. Andrew Maxwell's the quarterback. You deal with a bunch of drops. You're like, these guys suck. 2013, they come back, and they were pretty unbelievable with guys that weren't big names at the time. And then Tony Lippett turned himself into obviously an NFL draft pick. Same with Aaron Burbridge eventually. But this kind of reminds me of that. Just, not a lot of hope. Obviously different circumstances, but I see it there. I mean, running back, Lynch Adams and Carter are going to be a nice 1-2 punch, and then a couple freshmen, Brandon Tullis and Mekhi Frazier. pretty good ones. Child's a good quarterback. Good tight end room. I've heard good things coming out of there. And like you said, offensive line is definitely the question mark here. Can you find five? I mean, you have to have five, obviously, like 7, 8 guys that can play, and they can play different positions. I think that's what Malkovich, I think that's how you say his name, is kind of going for on the line, trying to figure that out. But it seems like they're making progress. And that's what we want to do. I mean, we just want to be better than we have been the last few years, show improvement as the season goes on, see young guys getting reps and doing well, and just not getting embarrassed. We cannot take getting just blown off the ball every play and losing yards. This offense cannot produce 90 rush yards. It needs to be like 125 and over 200 passing yards. Get this offense going. Run no huddle. There's going to be a lot of window dressing with motions. It's a pro-style offense, but there's going to be a lot of getting guys and scheming guys open. Jack Bell's going to have a huge season because tight end is the best friend of a quarterback that's learning and that's young and needs a check down safety blanket. Running backs are going to be used a lot in the pass game. I'm excited to see it happen. I want to see Aiden Childs use those legs a little bit, get outside the pocket, make some plays extemporaneously with his legs. I think that'll keep some drives alive. I think just this breath of fresh air of not having Jay Johnson as your offensive coordinator, square peg, round hole, jam it.
Short side
it doesn't
sweeps.
work. It doesn't work, Jay. Brian Lindgren is different than that. He knows what he's doing. Jonathan Smith's an offensive coach. He knows what he's doing. I'm excited to see it. I really am. The offensive line is the biggest question mark. Can they improve? Can Aiden Childs be consistent? Who's going to step up at receiver that's not named Montori Foster? Can the running back room stay healthy? If so, I think it'll be a pretty good room. And can we just be disciplined, not have holding penalties, no stupid false start penalties, just drive killers. We can't have that. That's been the MO the last few years for Michigan State. Penalties. It's John L. Smith, Bobby Williams, bull crap penalties, left and right on both sides of the ball. Undisciplined. We cannot have that anymore. I don't think that's going to happen as much. Maybe early it will, but as the season goes on, I don't think it will. Do you have any comments on the offense? Then we can maybe dive into the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the offensive side of the ball, good Michigan State teams under D'Antonio always had, maybe not a lot of NFL guys on the line, but they had a very solid, up front that could pass block and that could open up holes, and some good running backs. I think Michigan State's got the offensive skill position talent. I think that the receivers are going to be better than people think. I think they've actually got some good depth beyond Velling at tight end.
Yep.
I think they've got some talent on the offensive front. It's finding the right pieces and parts, like Jonathan Smith said yesterday, or maybe it was Lindholm or Lindgren or whatever his name is, the OC.
Lindgren.
We got 6 guys right now. We'd really like to get to 10. I think it was Jonathan Smith that said it. That worries me a little bit. I think that's the number one thing, especially with a young quarterback. You don't want to get him frustrated and put into turnover type situations. I do think, again, he's got the skill. There's ways to use it. I feel like this coaching staff already talked about how they have adapted to the players that they have as opposed to just fitting them into the scheme, even more so probably on defense. So I think, the offense is going to be way better than last year. I think that if they can hold together and actually be disciplined against the big boys, they got a great stretch we'll talk about in the middle of the season. That's going to be really difficult.
First down,
they can definitely score more than 10 points in those games. So I think the offense gives them a fighting chance in a lot of games this year, whereas last year you just hoped that they could show up, and it was, you were more relying on lucky bounces and such. So, I'd give the offense right now going into the season probably a C+, but I think they have a potential to be a B or a B+.
I agree with that.
I think not at quarterback. I think Childs is going to be, good. I think the receivers will be good.
But
I think he gives a dynamic at quarterback that I was just thinking about while you were talking.
Who's the last guy? Drew Stanton to be able to run,
but not even in the same caliber, right? Like Nickel was actually probably he's the most athletic quarterback that we've had since we had Nickel. Who was highly touted recruit to Oklahoma that transferred back to Michigan State from, because he's a Lowell boy. We saw a little bit of him, but then ultimately Fracas won that job, and then he took the role on the team that got him on the field and helped the team. I don't think that's going to happen with Child. I don't think he's going to become a wide receiver, but I think he's got the looks of that kind of guy who comes in with some swagger. Drew Stanton, but even he wasn't the guy at the beginning of his time. I don't really know in my lifetime who he compares to be completely honest. So that's what I'm excited to see. And hopefully the offensive line can keep him somewhat clean so it doesn't become a frustrating season.
Yeah, there's just please, Lord, take care of the ball. That's all I ask. Can we please do that? All right, defense. Maverick Hansen's back. I think it's his 5th or 6th year. He's been a good Spartan. He's a captain. Malik Spencer, good safety. Cal Halliday, Boogeyman's led the team in tackles for the last 3 seasons. He's actually a true 5th year guy. This is his 4th year playing.
Mm-hmm.
So
lost some weight, so he's back to his...
He looks good. Chance Rucker, good DB last year as a true freshman. Jordan Hall, he's
very well spoken.
Really good linebacker, really good leader. Jalen Thompson, defensive end, I think he's going to break out. He's a nice player. And Dylan Tatum's not bad. D-line, I thought was going to be a big question after losing Barrow and Harmon. And the more I read about it, it seems like Michigan State they can platoon this.
They've got
D-line.
A lot of depth.
They have a lot of defensive tackles that are unproven, but really big bodies. Like Alex Van Sumerman's one of them. He was a highly rated recruit. He's been dinged up. Apparently, he's had a really good camp. And he's one of the hardest working guys on the team in the weight room. Really strong. We just need a guy just to step up that's not named Maverick Hansen in the D tackle room. That'd be awesome. Have a few guys play here and there. Boggle, he's back for another year. He's okay. Jalen Thompson, like I said, he's a guy that I think is going to be a stud, playing that rush end position. I like the D-line depth that Michigan State has. They're just a lot of guys that are hard workers and can get after the quarterback a little bit. We need pressure because our DBs have not been good for a long time since D'Antonio was there. And getting after the quarterback helps. I think they'll do that with some different scheming and I think better coaching, honestly, up front, linebacking core. I mean, it's one of the best if not in the Big Ten, in the country. Jordan Turner, I mentioned him earlier. He's really good. Cal Halliday, really good. Those are 2 starting caliber guys. Jordan Hall, amazing, true sophomore. Brady Pretzloff, he's a true freshman from up in Gaylord. Actually, he's had a couple picks in the scrimmages. Apparently, he's playing really well. This Wayne Matthews I talked about, he's a stud. This Bridgman guy from Michigan, Polium. They got some dudes.
Got some options to play some 3-4 almost.
Yeah, I mean they can roll out different guys for different snares. Darius Snow, I mean, he was in 2021, he was a stud. Just he had that catastrophic injury at the beginning of 22, but he's a stud when he's good. He's a very good tackler. DB is, that's my biggest question mark on the defense. It has been for years. Spencer's good.
Plenty of new bodies in there.
This Martinez guy's supposed to be good. Chuck Brantley's back. I mean, he just gets hurt all the time. Tatum's decent, not great. Chance Rucker, I think, could be a special player eventually. You got all these transfers I mentioned before. Ade Willie, I think he played a little bit last year. They've got some guys with experience. It's just finding the best 5 or 6 and letting them go out there. Angelo Gross, he's been there for 25 years. It's just finding the best guys and just rolling with it. Like they said last night on Big Ten, or don't give up the big play. Just keep everything in front of you. I don't want to say bend, don't break. Make tackles in space. Maybe punch a ball loose, but go make good, solid tackles and. Let your defense stand up and you make plays, play to your system. I think it'll be a lot better product. The 4-2-5 BS that Scotty Hazelton ran, never should have ran that with DBs being a weakness. Why would you put 5 defensive backs on the field? That's horrible.
I think Rossi is a good upgrade at defensive.
He's good, very well
coordinator.
Spoken. He knows what he's doing.
Big Ten experience.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. When specialists, we got 2 of the best in the country, I think. Jonathan Kim. He made 5 field goals that were 50-plus yards last year. Great kickoff guy. And Eckley, he's a freshman All-American last year as a punter. And he's got swagger. He's got a mustache and a mullet, yeah. So he's cool. Michigan State's had really good punters, sneaky good punters. him, Behringer,
Greg
Hartgarden was
Montgomery
solid.
in the 80s.
Mike Sadler, R.I.P. Aaron Bates was really good. Brandon Fields. They've had some guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see this product. Do you have any fun facts or?
Yeah, I mean, we regale you with fun facts on Michigan State all the time, so I'll skip the fun facts. I'll go over kind of like how they did last year and then their 5-year conference trend. So last year we had them going 2-1 out of conference, and they went 2-1 out of conference. And we had them going just 4-5 and going 6-6 last year. They went 2-7, 4-8, finished 6th in the Big Ten. It was a horrible season, and one of the worst since Muddy Waters, arguably. There were some lean years with John L. Smith. It was a little bit of a shit show with Bobby Williams, but this was like early 80s bad for Michigan State last year. We're ready to get that taste out of our mouth. I think Michigan State has enough players. I think my most important players are going to be Nate Carter. I think he could have a really big season at running back. Dude is super well spoken, and I think Hall at linebacker. I think those are my two guys that are that I'm really looking for. I think it's going to be a fun season for Michigan State, and I think it's going to give us some hope. I don't expect us to get it all back at once, but I do expect us to be competitive, especially in key games. And with that, let's first let's look at their 5-year conference trends. It's actually not that good.
No.
Let's see. I got to get back to that screen here. So. Last year, as we talked about, 2-7 in the Big Ten. That was 6th. Year before that, 3-6 in the Big Ten. That was 5th. Year before that, 7-2, 3rd. I mean, Ohio State and Michigan were the top 2 teams there, and they both made the CFP. Year before that, horrible 2-5. 7th is kind of hard to say because a lot of teams only won 2 games in the Big Ten, but Michigan State happened to play some of the most games. And then they were only 4-5 in 2019. Good for 5th. So their trend over the last several years has actually not been that good in conference. And with that, let's look at their schedule itself. So,
start off with a familiar foe in the past, Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
Friday Night Lights. You can get the win there.
Yep.
Tom Herman's the coach, but Michigan State gets a win. They're 1-0. They're getting Big Ten play. Like that.
And here's one of those games that
50-50.
could easily be a swing game. Maryland's going to be decent. We have Michigan State losing at Maryland very easily. I think could win that game, especially at that stage of the season. But we do have them losing. Coming back home to play Prairie View A&M, who, fun fact, used to have one of the longest losing streaks. In fact, I think they've had the longest losing streak ever in college football. It's like 60-some games.
That's a replacement game.
Yeah, because who bailed on?
I can't remember who bailed.
West Virginia or somebody like that. I think it was not West Virginia. It was,
I
can't remember either. So we got them winning that. Then we have them going to BC and picking up a win there. That's another toss-up game. So you could flip-flop. That could be a loss. That's a red bandana game, which Boston College always gets up for. Then the gauntlet starts. You got Ohio State at home. Now, I will say this. Michigan State has historically played Ohio State minus a couple of big games like the Big Ten Championship in 2013. Yeah, 2013. Typically, Michigan State plays Ohio State better when they have no chance.
Yeah.
Seriously. I'm not saying they're going to win, but some bad Michigan State teams have almost beaten some really good Ohio State teams. So, but I think Michigan State, that'll be the first sign that, hey, we can be competitive. It's not going to be 49-0 at the half. But I think Michigan State loses that game. And then it's a 6-day turnaround going to Oregon. Ryan and I have been there for Michigan State, Oregon. Oregon's the best team in the Big Ten. That's blowout central. Saturday, you can go rake the leaves or go play golf or whatever since it's a Friday night game. So we got a loss there. Then they get a week off to lick their chops. Then they got no easy task with Iowa at home. We do have Iowa beating Michigan State, but that is a game. Michigan State almost got them last year. Is, I think, significantly better than we were last year. I don't know that Iowa is significantly better per se. I think that's a 50-50 game, but we do have that as a loss, could easily be a win. Then at Michigan, we both currently have that as a loss. That's the game out of that 4-game stretch. I have the most confidence that actually Michigan State has the best chance to win. I don't think there's anybody there. Michigan's got some good players certainly, but they don't have the roster that they've had. Jonathan Smith is going to know what that game's all about. Then it gets a little bit easier. We got Indiana at home as a win. before a bye, and then 3 very winnable games to close the season. At Illinois, win. Purdue at home on a Friday, weird. Win. And then Rutgers at home on Thanksgiving
weekend. 4-game
weekend.
win streak in November.
Yeah, which would be huge because that puts Michigan State at 7-5, 4-5 still, so still pretty middling in the Big Ten. I look at it. I think ceiling, realistically, I don't think you're going to see 9 wins. But I mean, Michigan State could teams that we have them losing to that they could beat. They could beat Maryland, they could beat Iowa, they could beat Michigan. They could also lose to Rutgers, Illinois. Boston College. So I think worst case of injuries happen and stuff, and it just goes south is 5-7. But I really think Michigan State is solidly going to lock in at 6-6 or 7-5. Take a baby step, get to a bowl game, maybe get a win, and then build their foundation for going forward. If they could get to 8, that would be huge. But I realistically think, a lot of pundits say Michigan State's going to be like 13th, 14th in the Big Ten, that they have a tough schedule. Yeah, they do in the middle, but like the Big Ten's a tough conference with the teams that you pick up. Non-conference wise, those are all winnable. So I think 7-5 is very doable for Michigan State this year.
I agree. Let's hope, I think 7-5 is doable. Let's do it. All right. That is all the previews. Thanks for bearing with us and, hunkering down. We're looking forward to it. Let's get our 4th down here and get it done real quick. Pick'em, it's back for like 4th year. That's pretty crazy. All right, week 0 is upon us. Some marquee games. This one's the biggest one in Dublin. Florida State versus Georgia Tech. I don't know why they're going all the way over there to play this game, but
there's a bit of history in that rivalry of upsets. I don't
11.5. We're going 11, spread 11.5. Florida State's 11.5 point favorite. I think they cover it. Florida State does.
Yeah, I don't know much about Georgia Tech, and Florida State though was obviously a contender all last year, so I can buy that. I can see them winning by 2 touchdowns.
All right, this is a big one. MSU, Montana State versus New Mexico. New Mexico's new coach, Bronco Mendenhall.
I know nothing about.
I'm going MSU because I like MSU.
Are we going spread or straight up? I don't know anything about these teams. I'm going to go New Mexico.
All right. How about this one? SMU, supposed to be a surprise pick in the ACC of all conferences now.
ACC.
Playing Nevada, who's pretty terrible. 27.5 is the spread, SMU. I'm going SMU to cover, baby.
No, I'm going to go Nevada. Nevada's not going to win, but they're not going to cover. 28 points in the week 1 is virtually impossible unless you're playing like a FCS team.
All right, last one. Travel trouble's getting there. Delaware State playing Hawaii. I don't know anything. I'm going Hawaii because their coach was a really good quarterback, Timmy Chang.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Rainbow Warriors or whatever they're called.
Yeah, the Rainbow Warriors. They have a new stadium. It's cool.
Yeah, we'll go with Hawaii.
All right, they'll score a lot of points. Let's pick them this week. Next week we'll be back with Big Ten and probably a few other ones. All right. Time to sprint home. I saw this online and I had to do it. This is a thing. Would you rather have a Coke flavored Oreo or an Oreo flavored Coke?
What? Coke flavored Oreo?
Yeah, that's a thing.
Oreo flavored Coke.
This is a thing.
It'd be like a chocolate and vanilla flavored Coke,
I guess.
or a. That's weird.
I'm going with the Oreo, the Coke flavored Oreo. I don't think I would want to drink an Oreo. I mean, that just sounds weird.
I'm gonna go with the Oreo flavored Coke because I think they kind of have a chocolate-ish taste to it anyway. It'd be like kind of like a espresso.
Yeah, I guess. Airport or travel go-to snack?
Oh, airport or travel go-to snack? Well, I mean, back in the day, it would have been probably like Junior Mints or peanut M&Ms, but I'm kind of on the healthier trick. So I'm going now. What I've been going with the last few times I traveled is the banana caramel Bear Bells.
Nice. I like beef jerky when I travel.
That's a good one. Gets stuck in my teeth though.
Yeah. I saw this one on Twitter of all places. What actor would you want to play you in a biopic of your life?
Will Ferrell.
I'm gonna go Glenn Powell.
Oh yeah, because all the girls like
He's
it.
cool,
right? I was told when I was younger I looked like Richard Gere, So I guess I could have maybe back in the day picked him for like more of a doppelganger. But yeah, I'm going to go with like Vince Vaughn or Will Ferrell.
I don't think you look like Richard.
Back in the day. I'm young now, so he's old.
Over under 3.5 for Big Ten teams making the college football playoff.
3.5?
Yeah.
Under.
I'm going under 2. I've heard people think 4. I don't know how that'll work out.
I don't think so.
But whatever.
Big Ten's good, but nope, not going to happen.
All right, that is 187. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys, and we're happy football's back. Sad that golf season's winding down, but fall, you can feel it in the air. It's been kind of chilly in the morning, chillier at night. You can smell it. You can taste it. We're almost there.
All right, speaking of football, as Lou Holtz once said, ability is what you are capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it.